I hate the term foodie. It's so cheesy it makes me cringe. But if you had to use one word to describe me in the year 2020 of our Lord, it would be foodie. I'm not the best cook, but I'll sample whatever you got. And I love to eat out. I've planned vacations around which restaurants to eat at. I'm that person takes pictures of their food and posts it on Instagram, and I'm thankful for those that do the same. But not anymore. I haven't been able to eat out in public since some time after that fateful day that I went on a lunch run for my office. This is what happened. The smell of grease and sizzling meat wafted through my car windows as I pulled into the Dairy Twist, today's selection for the office lunch run. I was the lucky employee tasked with picking up the 7 other orders of my fellow co-workers. It was always such a pain in the ass, carrying about 15 different debit cards and random bills and change. They liked it when I did it because I never screwed up any orders. If I got this detail again, I swore I was going to start bringing my lunch. I might miss out on the delicious delicacy of Dairy Twist, but it would probably be healthier. Cheaper, too. The Dairy Twist was an old-school drive-in. Family-owned and only open for lunch. It had been around for over 50 years and for good reason. They had the best burger in town. The layout was shaped like a T, with the building the top of the T, as you parked on either side of the middle portion under a metal roof. You had to get out and order at the counter, and then wait for your number to be called over a crackling loudspeaker. I found the last parking spot and got out of the car. I had been feeling very attractive and confident when I got to work this morning as I had taken a long time to get ready. Hair straightened, new skirt and boots. I hardly ever wore jewelry, but that day I did. Yet, I suddenly regretted my outfit choice as I started to feel self-conscious as I made my way to the lunch counter. I felt like I was on a fashion runway as I walked in between all the cars that were parked on either side, a runway that I didn't want to be on. I just had that feeling and I noticed a man in a big truck staring at me. He was wearing a hat. His face was scrawny and he had a short gray beard. His teeth appeared to be mostly absent as his face had that collapsed sock puppet look. His dry lips were scrunched around a cigarette as he stared. We made eye contact and his gaze didn't divert, and I instantly glanced away, eyes staring straight ahead and pretending that I didn't see him. There were other cars there, but I couldn't really see into them as well, tinted windshields and glares of sunlight blocking my view. It's not like this was anything that I hadn't dealt with before. I tried to push it out of my mind and ignore it like I always did. I felt safer as I got into the glass enclosure of the lunch counter. There was a little window that I talked to the clerk through, a pleasant older woman, the owner's wife. I placed all of the orders, a pain in the ass plethora of requests. Hold the pickles, no mayo, curly fries, straight fries, add bacon, Pepsi if they have it, Dr. Pepper if not, no onions, etc., etc. Okay, hon. Your number's 336. We'll have it tried out, the lady from behind the counter told me with a smile. 332, a man from behind the counter said into a receiver as his voice crackled over the loudspeaker. He placed a white greasy sack and a large styrofoam cup by the window. I heard a truck door open and shut, a man hacked and coughed and spat. I glanced over my left shoulder. The man from the truck was strutting towards the counter. I got a nervous feeling in my stomach. There was only one entrance to the lunch counter. I had a fleeting panic that I would be trapped in here. You're being ridiculous. Calm down. It's daylight and everyone's here. Walk back to your car. I started for the entryway. The man had entered. I made no eye contact and sought out something in the parking lot to look at as distraction. From my periphery, I could see his head turn as I passed. A friendly-looking older man smiled at me. He sat behind the wheel of a big black Lincoln, wearing a dress shirt. His hair was silver and plentiful. I smiled back. For a second, I had the feeling that he was looking out for me, and I felt relieved. I got back to my car and tinkered around on my phone until my number was called. The guy in the truck had long pulled away. It was all fading to the back of mind. Yet another creeper guy that had made me feel uncomfortable. I wonder if he even knew he was doing it, if it was just second nature for him to leer at whomever he pleased, whoever was alone. He wasn't the first. He wouldn't be the last. My adrenaline was starting to equal out, and I was beginning to get hungry. 335, the loudspeaker said. All right, almost here. My stomach growled and my mouth watered. 336. I made the trek towards the stand again. I had a tray of drinks to carry, and they had filled a small flat box with paper bags of food. I was going to have to take 2 trips. Looks like you got the short straw, the friendly old man said to me as I walked past carrying the box. Yep. This is my last food run. Even if they're buying, it's not worth it, I said with a polite laugh. He was likable and reminded me of Jerry, a jolly guy at work who had ordered a double cheeseburger with no tomatoes. After I brought the second load to the car, I sat in silence for a while. The window was down, and the spring air was just a right temp. I didn't feel like rushing back to the office, and my food sounded so appetizing right now. I didn't want everything to get lukewarm for myself. Fuck 'em, I thought. I'm out on this shit. No more. I dug into the bags of food and found my order. The first bite was exquisite. I took another. The bun was buttered and crisp and the meat juicy. Before I knew it, I had half of the damn thing devoured. Hey, that's what I like to see. A nice trim gal with a hearty appetite, a voice said. I jumped in surprise. I had been in the zone, looking down at my phone and enjoying my food so much that I hadn't seen him come up. A pair of dress slacks were at my window level. I was greeted to an eyeful of bunched up trouser crotch. I traced my line of sight to the voice's owner. The friendly-looking old man. So he was a creep. Maybe. Maybe he was telling me to look out for the other guy. Man, you're really putting that meat down, he said. Definite creep. Whereas before, I may have been over-vigilant with the guy in the truck and planning for every possibility, now I was completely taken off guard. I felt frozen to the spot, unable to say anything. I gripped the half-eaten burger in my hand. I tried to think of a good comeback, but my voice just cracked in my throat. Get the fuck out of here. Roll up your windows and leave. I was never good at coming up with stuff on the fly, always got that nervous sensation when a stranger approached me a little too eagerly. Here, it was amplified to 11. My body felt deflated and my arms and legs were shaky. God, I love a hot chick that enjoys a good greasy burger, he said, and adjusted his crotch overtly. He squatted down so that our eyes were level. He had a big grin on his face. I noticed he had a thin soul patch type of facial hair, a thin band of gray that ran from his lower lip and flared out at his chin. The top few buttons of his dress shirt were undone, and a gold chain snaked through his wiry old man chest hairs. His eyes were silvery blue. You keep up with that, your ass is gonna get nice and fat. Don't worry, though. I like when that happens, he said as he put his hands on the doorframe. That did it. I was shaken from my paralysis, and I hurled the burger through the open window and into his face. I grabbed the closest drink and threw it after. I yanked my car into reverse and peeled out of there. A car honked angrily behind me. I saw him in my rearview mirror, head pointed to the sky in a roaring laugh. I drove the rest of the way to work, tears streaming down my face. I didn't leave my apartment or the break room at work for an entire month for lunch or anything after that incident. I couldn't even go through a drive-through. It was just as well, food had begun to taste like ash for that first few weeks. Later, some friends were going for drinks and dinner, a new place that had gotten good reviews. I felt excited for it, my old self returning. I went. We laughed, we talked, we drank. The appetizer came, something unique. Fried goat cheese and honey. We started to indulge and then I saw him. Across the restaurant, in a booth. He was there with his grin and his hungry eyes, watching the food go into my mouth, looking for my enjoyment. I bet that tastes good, those balls in your mouth, I heard him say, somehow directly in my ear. Guys, look over there. Do you see that creepy guy? I asked. But he was gone. In the booth was an even older man, who was standing up to greet his wife that had just arrived. That guy? Oh. He looks sweet. Still taking his wife out after all these years. I didn't eat the rest of the meal, couldn't even drink. I didn't go out for another couple of weeks. It was hard. So much of our culture was centered around meals and dining out, and I had always enjoyed it, but I couldn't. I was too afraid. But then I had a date, and I figured that I would be safe with a male presence. No such luck. He was there. He licked his lips. I cancelled halfway through. My date seemed understanding, says we can try again somewhere down the road. He had seemed so nice too. If I couldn't eat out, then I would make something delectable at home. I got a second date with the guy I had liked. Tried really hard to cook something. When that fell through in a burnt catastrophe, we laughed and ordered Thai food. It came and smelled delicious. We placed pad Thai into bowls and turned on a Netflix comedy special. There was wine. I raised the first bite into my mouth. So good. It had been so long. In a vase that sat next to my TV, I could see a reflection. His reflection. He was smiling. You know what the girls in Thailand will do for you for $5? His voice asked in my ear. I screamed and collapsed. I've begun to lose weight, quite a bit actually. My hip bones are prominent and poking out of my pelvis. I can see the outline of my spine. Food doesn't taste good. I have to force myself to eat. I've been choking down Ensure. Most people, they think I've developed an eating disorder somewhere along the way. I hear the whispers. When they ask, I tell them that it's a dietary intolerance and I've been placed on severe restrictions. That usually shuts them up. They say it could be PTSD, but I'm not so certain. I will grant that it could be a hallucination of sorts, a flashback, but not every single time. I know that I've seen him since then. At restaurants, watching me from afar, always grinning and with a gleam in his eye. I hired a private investigator. He's spoken with the owners of the Dairy Twist. Says they're great people. They had video camera footage up to a month back, but it didn't matter. They knew him. He was something of a regular. I've been thinking about this day after day. He took away something that I loved. I know where he lives. I know his routine. I know what time he gets home. I've been out to the range a lot with one of my friend's brothers. I've gotten really good. I know how to do it so that he doesn't go out quick. I want him to see my face one last time before the lights go out. I want him to know who I am.